So yeah, like in our question, it says suppose that you deposit 500 Ghana cedis in your account that yield 25% interest rate for 5 years. What will be the value of your money at the end of 5 years, assuming interest is charged under simple interest? So under simple interest, we said our simple interest can be computed as this. So our principal is the amount of money invested or deposited, which is 500, and our rate is 25%. Our time is 5 years. So this cancel this. So 5 times 25 times 5 will give us 625. This is the interest. But the question is asking for what will be the value of this money at the end of 5 years. So the value of money, that's at the end of 5 years, our total amount is going to be our principal plus our interest. The principal is the amount of money deposited, and then our interest here is 620 what? 5. So in all we have 500 plus 625 will give us 1120 what? 5. That is at the end of 5 years. This is what we have. Now the question is calculate the value of money at the end of 5 years, assuming interest is charged under compound interest. So under compound interest, remember when I was discussing the compounding, I said it is used to find the future value. So our future value is can be written as this, where the PV is the present value, the amount of money you deposited, which is 500. Then the R is your interest rate, which is 25%. And here we have 5 years. So I have my 500. And 25 over 100 can be written as 1, 2. That is 0.25. That is it. So we have 500. 1 plus 0.25 will give you 1.25 raised to the power what? 5. So we have 500 multiplied by 1.25 raised to the power 5. And that will give us 1525.88. Now compare this amount of money to this amount of money. So you see, it's the same amount of money you are deposited. They are depositing in a what? Bank. But because this one you are using compound simple interest, this is the value of money at the end of the 5 years. So if you want to invest in treasury bill, they normally ask you to fill a form, and then they tell you to roll over only interest, or roll over interest and principal, or roll over only principal, meaning the interest will be calculated only on your initial principal. That is the simple what? Interest. But here, when you are rolling over both the interest and then the principal, such that the interest and the principal becomes the principal for the next what? Year, then you are going to earn more what? Interest. So if you want to undertake any investment policy with this calculation, it should help you make what? And inform what? Decisions. All right. Now let's consider another example under future value. We have a question here. You have, let's say, 10,000 Ghana cedis invested in a bank account for 6 years. Suppose the bank is currently paying an interest of 6%. Interest of 6% per year on the investment. What will be the total value of the investment? What will be the total value of the investment at the end of the 6 years. So this is our last question. So you see, with this question, what will be the total value at the end? So here we are looking for present what value. Sorry, the future value of this. If I have 10,000 and I want to invest, leave it in my savings account, bank account for 6 years. At the end of 6 years, what will be my investment worth? So you say the present value is equal to the future value is equal to present value bracket open 1 plus r raised to the power n, where our present value is the amount of money you have now. So you see, if you want to embark on any investment, this is the formula we use in real life. So I have 10,000. I want to leave it for 6 years. I'm going to. So that is why if you want to embark on any investment, whether fixed deposit or so, you should know the interest rate of that particular bank, so that you know how long you should leave your money. Assuming you have you are looking forward to a particular an amount of money in the future. So here we have our 10,000 Ghana cedis. And then our 6% can be given as 6/100. And our interest rate is 6 years. So we have this. So 6/100 can be written as 0.06. And we have 10,000 bracket open. 1 plus this will give us 1.06. Raise the power what? 6. Now, let me tell you something. If you read the question and you see, let's say, monthly, you see this is per year. When it's monthly, quarterly, you have to make 1 or 2 changes. If it's monthly, you multiply the time by 12 and then you divide the rate by 12. Normally, when we are giving the thing in per year, you are supposed to do the same thing. But you see, per year means 1. You multiply the time by 1. And 6 times 1 is the same 6. This rate over 12 is this rate over 1 is just the same rate. That is why we don't normally make these changes. So you read the question and you see quarterly, 6% quarterly, meaning you divide the rate by 4 and then you multiply the time by what? 4. That is it. Alright, but if it's yearly, you just leave it like that, in that order. So on our calculator, what do we have here? We have 10,000 multiplied by 1.06 bracket close raised to the power 6. And that will give us 14185.19. So you see, if I deposit 10,000 Ghana cedis and leave it for 6 years, I am going to get 14,185. Now, so this is how we calculate present value of money. But aside this formula, you can also use the table. So we are going to use the table to solve for only 1. Then you can also try your hands on the remaining 2. So if I want to use the table, there's another method 2. So the table, what do we have here? We have here our period. That is the years. Then we have our cash flow. The amount of money that is leaving your hand or leaving your business. That's the amount of money you are depositing or you are using for your investment. And then we have what we call our discount factor. Then we have our future value. That is it. It's very, very simple. So here we have our cash flow. What is our cash flow? Our cash flow is the 10,000. So in some book, we normally call this table, like we normally, you will see this future value interest factor or factor interest. It's just the same thing. So the discount factor times the future value. You see, this is the future value, this. Then you multiply by this interest factor or factor interest. That's the discount what factor of discount rate. So how do we do that? So let's use this question. What will be your future value if you invest 10,000 today for 10 years? So the 10,000 is your cash flow. 10,000. And then what is our discount factor? Now this is your formula for finding discount factor. When you look at the present value formula, you see this 1 plus r bracket close with the power n is your discount factor. So my discount factor can be given as 1 plus r raised to the power n, where our r is the percentage given. That is 10%. Remember, 10% means 10 over 100. 10 over 100 can be written as 0.1. That is, you see, 10 over 100, 0.1. And then the n is the number of years. How many years do we have here? 2 years. So I put mine 2 here. So we have 1.1. So 1.1 raised to the power 2 will give us 1.21. So let's put our 1.21 here. Then how do we get the present value? The present value is you only multiply this by this. So if I take 1.21 times my 10,000, it will give me 12100. So you see the same answer, 12100. So I can choose to use this formula, or you can choose to use the what? Table. So try and use the table to solve this particular what? Question. Prior questions. So let's say we have a question like, would you rather receive 1,000 Ghana cedis a year for 10 years? A year for 10 years, or 800 Ghana cedis a year for 15 years. If A, interest rate is 7%, B, interest rate is 18%. So would you rather receive? So here, let's look at the future value at the end of the 10 years. If I'm receiving 1,000 Ghana cedis a year at the end of 10 years, and I'm receiving 800 Ghana cedis a year for 15 years, which one would you prefer? As a rational human being, we are all going to prefer the one that will give us what? A higher future value, or a higher future returns. So let's look at the future value here. You know, our future value is giving us N or T. So let's calculate for future value of 1,000 cedis. And then what rate are we using here? 7%, which is 7 over 100. For how many years? 10 years. So we have 1 plus 0.07 thousand, 1.07. So let's take our calculator. What do we have here? 1,000 Ghana cedis times 1.07 raised to the power 10. And that will give us 1967.15. What it means is that if I invest 10,000 Ghana cedis for 10 years, giving an interest rate of 7%, this the amount I'm going to make at the end of the 10 years. Now let's work for investing 800 Ghana cedis. Future value is present value 1 plus R. So here we have 800 and our R is still 7%, which is 7 over 100. But here for 15 years. So I have 1 plus 0.07. So 1 plus this will give you 1.07 raised to the power 15. So I have 800 times 1.07 raised to the power 15. And that will give you 2207.23. Now you see, so with this answer, I would rather prefer 800 Ghana cedis a year for 15 years. 2,000 Ghana cedis a year for 10 year. Because you see their future value, this is giving you 19. However, there are a lot of factors that will go into